When I bought the cabin by Blue Raven Lake, all I wanted was silence. Not serenity. Not peace of mind. Not some Pinterest-worthy cottagecore fantasy about fishing off a dock and watching the sunrise with a golden retriever. Just silence. After 22 years deployed to nearly every war zone between Kandahar and the Congo, silence wasn't just a luxury, it was a currency. I'd earned it, and I intended to spend it in full. I didn't want neighbors. I didn't want potlucks. I didn't want concerned citizens asking about my past. I didn't want to hear about lawn committee votes or what color my damn mailbox should be. I just wanted to drink my coffee without incoming fire, literal or metaphorical. The place used to belong to my uncle, Emmett, a Vietnam vet who spent most of his final years split between fishing and yelling at political documentaries. The man had more theories than the Library of Congress and could get a trout faster than most people could tie their shoes. He passed 4 years ago and left the cabin to me in his will. I was too busy back then to deal with it. But after punching out no fanfare, no send-off, just a handshake and a thank you for your service, I decided it was time. I cashed in what chips I had left, grabbed a six-pack and a duffel, and drove until the cell signal disappeared. For 3 perfect days, it worked. The cabin was rough, yeah. The shutters squealed, the dock creaked like an old man's knees, and there was a smell in the pantry that I decided not to investigate unless it started moving. But it was solid, and it was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes your jaw unclench before you even realize it was tight. The kind that sinks into your bones and makes you remember what it's like to breathe without thinking. Then I saw the footprints. Not mine, not deer, and definitely not raccoon. Ashes in the fire pit. Crushed beer cans behind a shed. A folding chair, not mine, planted at the edge of the dock like someone had been sunbathing on my piece. Cute. Annoying, but cute. I cleaned it up. Figured some teens had wandered in for a party. Put up a few signs. Private property. No trespassing. Added one that read, survivors will be prosecuted, because I thought it was funny. Then came a clipboard. I was hammering down a cracked board on the dock when I heard it, not a car, not footsteps. Worse. Sandals on gravel. That high-pitched SCRCH scratch sound that only orthopedic footwear can make. The sound of someone who walks like they're entitled to oxygen. I looked up. There she was. Blonde bob. Giant sunglasses. Clipboard clutched in her arms like it contained the nuclear codes. The kind of woman who probably writes Yelp reviews for fun and corrects cashiers about bagging technique. Hi, she chirped. All fake cheer and passive-aggressive Midwestern superiority. I'm Debbie. I'm with the Lakeshore Harmony HOA. Oh God. I stood, brushed off my jeans, and gave her the practiced, dead-eyed smile I reserve for difficult people. Jack Halstead, I said. Don't think we've met. I just moved in. Her nose twitched. You moved into that cabin? Yup, I nodded. Inherited it. Fixed it up. Planning to stay. She clicked her tongue and scribbled something into her clipboard like she was writing a citation. Well, just so you know, this area is part of the Lakeshore Harmony HOA. We have rules, schedules, and cleanup rotations. I'm not in the HOA, I said calmly. This property isn't part of it. It never was. I've got the deed, zoning maps, and no signed agreements. This land's private. She blinked. That threw her for a second. Then she recovered, her tone sharpening like a knife getting honed. Well, you are adjacent to community property, and there's an understanding that the shoreline is open for gatherings. Bonfires. Barbecues. Maybe there was an understanding, I replied, gesturing to the spotless dock. But the last people who used it left beer cans, cigarette butts, and a hot dog half-stuffed under the deck. So, that understanding is officially revoked. She pressed her lips so tight they vanished. Well, we'll see about that, she snapped, spinning around and storming back toward her beige crossover SUV like a toddler denied dessert. Probably not the last I'll see of clipboard Medusa, I muttered to the trees. Spoiler, it wasn't. The visits started weekly, then twice a week, then every other day. Debbie always showed up with that clipboard tucked under her arm like it granted her dominion. Every time, her requests got stranger. It would really boost morale if you left your gate open for shared lake access. You know, we used to hold Easter egg hunts here. My daughter's wedding is coming up. The shoreline would be so romantic. You wouldn't want her to settle for the country club, would you? I started a log. Debbie's surveillance log. Volume 1. Some highlights. Attempted guilt trip Easter. Requested doc donation for baptisms. Suggested listing my cabin as an HOA retreat. Insisted quiet doesn't mean exclusion. Each time, I told her the same thing. This land is mine. This dock is mine. That water? Build your own dam pier. I even named the boldest raccoon that visited Debbie in her honor. She didn't laugh. When the signs didn't work, I put up metal gates. Locked them when I was gone. Just a simple reminder that some lines shouldn't be crossed. That's when she brought backup. 2 HOA lieutenants, complete with matching sun visors, fanny packs, and chihuahuas that looked like they were plotting sedition. They approached like they were hosting a tribunal. "We understand you're a private individual," Debbie said, as if speaking to a bear with a degree in sarcasm. "But the HOA would appreciate cooperation. We're a community." I sipped my coffee. "Let me ask you something," I said. "If I set up a grill in your backyard, let my friends throw trash in your flower beds, then got mad when you told me to leave, what would you call that?" She blinked. "I'd call it trespassing. So would the sheriff." They shuffled off. But not for long. Because people like Debbie don't retreat. They recalibrate. And I had a plan of my own. See, I didn't just retire to drink beer and fix boards. I had a toy. A boat. A sleek, matte black, fully electric fishing boat named Echo. Custom built. GPS locked. Smart system synced to my phone. And my favorite feature? Loop mode. If Echo detected unauthorized use, it would lock the controls and steer itself in a slow, wide figure eight until manually reset. Like tying a thief to a robotic duck. It was, in short, a trap. So when I left for town, that Friday, 40 minutes away, I knew. 15 minutes in, my phone pinged. Motion detected. Galta breach. Unauthorized dock access. Echo ignition attempted. I pulled over and opened the app. Live feed, Debbie. Hoodie, gloves, no clipboard. She was climbing into the boat, fumbling with the panel. Then ignition. Echo hummed to life. Pulled away, and began its slow, merciless loop. Debbie stood there, confused. Tried the controls. Press buttons. Nothing. She spun. She flailed. She yelled at the water. I called the sheriff. Got a trespasser. On my dock. Operating private property. I've got footage. They didn't ask many questions. By the time I returned, she'd been spinning for 30 minutes. I grabbed a lawn chair and a soda and watched the sunset. She screamed not in fear, in pure, entitled frustration. Echo didn't accelerate. Didn't stop. It just looped. Over and over. Smooth. Perfect. Like karma on autopilot. At minute 40, she sat down. At 45, she looked green. By the time the sheriff and paramedics arrived, she was dry heaving into a paper bag. Deputy Langston, an old-school guy with a poker face made of stone, stepped onto the dock. "She okay?" he asked. "She's not injured," I replied. "Just learning the concept of consequences." 3 minutes later, Echo returned like a chauffeur. Debbie collapsed onto the dock, sopping wet, humiliated, and smelling like gasoline and bad decisions. I gave the sheriff the footage, the logs, the timestamps. "Damn," he muttered. "This is airtight." "I know," I nodded. Tried to warn her. She wasn't arrested. Not that day. But 3 days later, I got served. She was suing me. Claimed I endangered her, traumatized a community leader, misused nautical technology. Her lawyer, a preening frat reject named Harris, claimed I had weaponized a boat. My attorney, Carmen, ex-JAG, zero patience. She dropped a binder on the table like a warhead. Every sign, every camera shot, and the cherry on top, a recording of Debbie saying 2 weeks prior, "Technically that property isn't part of the HOA, but we treat it like an honorary zone." Carmen arched one eyebrow. "Honorary, huh?" The judge dismissed the case in 5 minutes. With prejudice. Debbie? She wasn't just embarrassed. She was exposed. Turns out this wasn't her first overstep, or her third, or even her 10th. The HOA board received a petition for her removal. It passed unanimously. I got a copy in the mail with a sticky note. Dear Mr. Halstead, while we don't endorse boat justice, we appreciate your initiative. Sincerely, Cheryl from Lot 12. A week later, a for sale sign appeared in front of Debbie's house. 2 days after that, she was gone. I monitored my cameras for weeks. Kept her name in the system, just in case. But nothing. Just quiet. Beautiful, perfect, hard-earned silence. No more flyers. No more guilt trips. No more fake community spirit covering personal control issues. Just me. My cabin. My boat. My lake. And Dennis, the raccoon. He showed up one evening, knocked over a beer, and stared at me like we'd met before. Maybe he's the reincarnation of Debbie. Maybe he's just curious. Either way, he doesn't carry a clipboard. He doesn't ask about community barbecues. He just raids my trash and waddles off. And honestly, that's the kind of neighbor I can live with. I'll be here, feet up, cold drink in hand, watching the sunset while Dennis inspects Echo like he's planning a heist. And if the clipboard brigade ever returns, they'll learn the same lesson Debbie did. You don't mess with an old soldier's silence, especially not when his boat's smarter than your entire HOA.